Do you ever feel like your dreams are slipping away? Like every time you start making progress, something pulls you back? Fear, doubt, or just life getting in the way? It's frustrating, isn't it? That deep knowing that you could do it, that you should do it, but somehow you keep giving up. Let me be blunt. This isn't about lack of talent, time, or resources. It's about the stories you're telling yourself. And today, we're going to rewrite them. Because giving up on your dreams isn't just a bad habit, it's a decision. And guess what? You have the power to make a different one. In this video, we're diving deep into the mindset, strategies, and surprising truths that will help you stop quitting on yourself once and for all. We're going to confront the excuses, break through the fear, and spark a fire that makes your dreams feel not just possible, but inevitable. So, if you've ever felt stuck, frustrated, or unsure of how to keep going, stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you'll have the tools and the clarity to take your dreams off the shelf and bring them to life. Ready to take control? Let's do this. Number 1, burn the backup plan. So let me ask you this. How serious are you about your dreams? No, really. Because here's the thing. They're either your plan A or just something you like to fantasize about on sleepless nights. And if you're still keeping that cushy safety net in place, guess what? You're not chasing a dream, you're hedging a bet. Harsh? Maybe. But stick with me. This is where it gets good. Now I get it. Letting go of a backup plan feels like diving headfirst into the deep end without checking for sharks. It's terrifying. You might be thinking, why would I ever take that kind of risk? And you're not alone. We've all been there, clinging to what's safe and familiar while daydreaming about something bigger. Maybe it's that corporate job with decent pay, or maybe it's your fallback degree in a field you don't love but could tolerate. But let me tell you, those safety nets, they're not saving you. They're holding you back. Here's why. As long as you have a backup plan, you're giving yourself permission to fail. You're splitting your energy, your focus, your fire. You're saying, it's okay if I don't make it. I have this other thing to fall back on. But dreams don't work like that. They demand your full attention, your undivided loyalty. You can't give 100% to Plan A if part of you is still clutching Plan B. Let me share a quick story. A friend of mine, let's call her Sarah, always wanted to start her own bakery. She talked about it non-stop, sketched out the logo, even tested recipes on weekends. But every Monday, she'd go back to her office job, telling herself, I'll start when I'm ready. She never felt ready. Until one day, her company announced layoffs, and she was forced to choose, bake or break. So she went for it, fully, with no fallback option. Fast forward 2 years, and she's running a thriving business. Her secret? She didn't have a choice but to succeed. I know what you're thinking. But what if I fail? Here's the twist. Failure isn't the end. It's part of the process. It's how you learn, adjust, and grow. Having no safety net means you'll figure it out because you have to. You'll get scrappy, resourceful, determined. You'll find solutions you never knew you had in you because failure simply isn't an option anymore. This isn't about being reckless. It's about being all in. It's about trusting yourself enough to bet on your own ability to rise to the challenge. When you burn the backup plan, you're not just taking away your safety net. You're giving yourself the wings to fly. So here's my challenge to you. Let go of the plan B that's keeping you in limbo. It's time to step into the unknown with full conviction. Your dreams deserve nothing less than your absolute best, unfiltered effort. No safety nets, no backups. Just you, your vision, and the determination to make it happen. Because when you finally do, you'll realize the safety net was never what kept you safe. It was your courage all along. Number 2. Dream debt. Invest. Now, pay later. What if I told you that chasing your dream is less about waiting for the right moment and more about taking on a little debt? Yep, you heard me. Debt. But before you raise an eyebrow or click away, let me explain. I'm not talking about the kind of debt that keeps you up at night sweating over credit card statements. I'm talking about dream debt, an intentional investment in your future self that locks you into taking action. Sound risky? Maybe. But trust me, it's a game changer. Think about this. How many times have you said, "I'll start when I'm ready"? Or maybe, "I'll wait until I have more money, more time, or more certainty"? We've all been there, haven't we? It feels safe to wait, like staying on the sidelines until the conditions are just right. But the truth is, ready is a myth. No one's ever truly ready for the big, life-changing leap. And that's exactly why we need a little push, something that makes staying still more uncomfortable than moving forward. That's where dream debt comes in. It's the idea of putting some skin in the game, financially, emotionally, or even socially. So you're not just dreaming, you're committed. Think about it. When you pay for a gym membership, you're way more likely to show up than if you're just planning to work out at home. It's the same principle with your dreams. By investing something upfront, you create a sense of urgency and accountability that forces you to act. Let me share a quick story. A few years ago, I had this grand idea to start a podcast. I'd been talking about it for months, reading up on equipment, jotting down episode ideas. You know, the fun stuff. But when it came to actually starting, crickets. Until one day, I did something drastic. I spent $500 on a mic, editing software, and hosting fees. It was money I didn't technically have to spare. But now that I'd made the investment, I felt like I couldn't back out. Fast forward to today, and that podcast became one of the most fulfilling projects I've ever done. Why? Because I had no choice but to follow through. I owed it to myself and my wallet. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but what if I fail? What if I waste my investment? And you're right, it's possible. But here's the thing. The fear of wasting that investment is exactly what keeps you moving forward. Dream debt isn't just about the money or time you put in, it's about the fire it lights under you. It's about creating momentum where there was none. This isn't about being reckless or throwing money at problems. It's about making an intentional choice to believe in yourself enough to commit. This is about showing up for your dreams in a way that's bold, unapologetic, and just a little uncomfortable. Because growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens when you've got something to lose and everything to gain. So here's my challenge to you. What's one way you can take on dream debt today? Maybe it's signing up for that course you've been eyeing. Maybe it's buying the tools you need, or putting down a deposit on something that feels terrifyingly real. Whatever it is, do it. Invest in your future self now, even if it feels scary, especially if it feels scary. Because here's the truth. When you invest in your dream starts investing in you. And that's a debt worth taking on. Number 3. Fail publicly, thrive privately. Let's start with the scariest thing no one wants to talk about: failing in front of people. The very idea makes most of us break out in a cold sweat, doesn't it? But what if I told you that public failure isn't just survivable, it's one of the most powerful tools for success? Stick with me on this. I promise this isn't one of those embrace failure cliches. This is about using failure in a way that puts you miles ahead of everyone still hiding in the shadows. We've all been there. You have this great idea, a big goal or a dream that makes your heart race just thinking about it. And then, almost immediately, the inner dialogue starts. What if I mess up? What if everyone sees me fail? So you do what feels safe. You work quietly behind the scenes, tweaking, perfecting, waiting for the right time to share it with the world. But the truth is, that safe zone, it's a trap. because staying hidden robs you of momentum and the invaluable lessons that only come from putting yourself out there. Here's the deal. Failing publicly isn't about humiliation. It's about accountability and growth. When you declare your intentions out loud, you create a commitment, not just to yourself, but to everyone watching. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also motivating. Suddenly, you're not just dreaming, you're doing. And when things go sideways, because they will, you'll learn faster than you ever could in isolation. Failing in public is like learning to ride a bike on a crowded street. Sure, you might wobble, maybe even crash, but you'll master balance a lot quicker than if you stayed on the training wheels forever. Let me share a story. A friend of mine, Rob, decided he wanted to write a novel. For years he quietly worked on it in the evenings, but he never got past the first few chapters. Then one day he made a bold move. He announced on social media that he was committing to writing 1 chapter a week and would post his progress every Sunday. Terrifying, right? Especially because Rob wasn't a seasoned writer. But guess what happened? Some weeks were great, and some were a total mess, but the public accountability kept him going. The fear of letting people down or looking like a quitter motivated him to push through. By the end of the year, he had a complete manuscript. Here's the twist. Failing in front of people wasn't the nightmare he'd imagined. In fact, his mistakes earned him support and encouragement. People respected his vulnerability and cheered him on because they saw his dedication. That's the beauty of failing publicly. You invite others into your journey and they become part of your success story. I know this might sound like the absolute worst idea to anyone who values their pride. Putting yourself out there feels risky, like you're handing people a front-row ticket to your potential crash and burn. But here's the truth. Most people aren't rooting for your failure. They're inspired by your courage. And even if a few critics show up, so what? Their judgment says more about them than it does about you. This isn't about inviting criticism for the sake of it. It's about creating an environment where growth happens faster, deeper, and more authentically. When you fail in public, you get feedback you wouldn't get otherwise. You develop resilience, grit, and, best of all, you prove to yourself that failure isn't fatal. So here's the challenge. Stop hiding. Declare your goal, your dream, your wild ambition. Tell people what you're working on. Take that scary first step in the open, even if it's imperfect. Fail publicly, learn privately, and thrive in ways you never thought possible. Because thriving isn't about avoiding failure, it's about owning it, learning from it, and using it as fuel to go further than you ever imagined. Number 4. Break up with your excuses. Let me hit you with a hard truth. Your excuses? They're not harmless little thoughts. They're toxic relationships. The kind you know you should leave, but somehow you keep holding on to. And just like in any toxic relationship, the longer you stay, the harder it gets to walk away. So today, it's time. Time to break up with your excuses. For good. Now, I get it. Excuses feel safe. They whisper sweet nothings in your ear, convincing you that now's not the right time, or you're just too tired, or my personal favorite, you're not ready yet. We've all been there, haven't we? You know the type. Excuses make you feel justified, like you're protecting yourself from the pain of failure. But the truth? They're not protecting you, they're holding you hostage. Here's the thing, excuses are sneaky. They disguise themselves as legitimate reasons, and they're oh so convincing. But let's call them what they really are. Fear in a clever disguise. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. And every time you give in to an excuse, you're letting that fear win. So how do you break up with them? You do what anyone does in a messy breakup. You get real with yourself. You stop romanticizing the excuses and start seeing them for what they are, lies that keep you stuck. I know this might sound harsh, but hear me out. When you stop giving your excuses power, You take back control. I remember a time when I let excuses run my life. I wanted to start a business, but every time I thought about it, the excuses flooded in. You don't have enough experience. What if no one buys from you? What if you fail and look stupid? So I stayed in my safe little bubble, convincing myself that I was waiting for the perfect moment. Spoiler alert, that moment never came. Then one day I had enough. I sat down and wrote out every single excuse I'd been using. Seeing them all on paper was like looking at a bad breakup text. It was embarrassing, but it was also empowering, because once I saw them for what they were, I couldn't unsee them. I decided to stop waiting for perfection and just start. Was it scary? Absolutely. Did I mess up along the way? Of course. But you know what? I started building something real, something that my excuses could never have given me. Breaking up with your excuses doesn't mean you'll suddenly feel fearless. It means you'll start moving despite the fear. It's about reminding yourself that excuses are temporary comfort, but action creates lasting change. Every time you feel one creeping in, call it out. Say, "Not today. I see you, and I'm choosing something better." This isn't about being hard on yourself. It's about loving yourself enough to let go of the things that hold you back. Imagine what your life could look like without the excuses. Picture the dream, the goal, the thing you've been putting off. It's right there, waiting for you, just on the other side of your fear. So, here's the deal. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need endless time or resources. You just need to make the decision. Break up with your excuses, step into the unknown, and trust yourself enough to figure it out as you go. Because you're stronger than the fear. You're capable of more than you realize. And the life you want? It's waiting for you to stop making excuses and start making moves. This is your moment. Take it. Number 5. Turn the clock against you. What if I told you that the clock, the very thing we blame for never having enough time, is actually working for you, if you know how to flip the script? Yes, the clock isn't your enemy. It's not there to stress you out with its relentless ticking or make you feel like you're constantly running out of time. In fact, the clock can become your greatest ally, but only if you're willing to turn it against yourself in the most unconventional way possible. Now, you might be thinking, how do I turn something as rigid as time into an advantage? Stay with me. We've all had those moments where the day slips away, and by the time you finally sit down to tackle your to-do list, it's bedtime. You tell yourself, tomorrow will be different, but tomorrow comes, and the same cycle repeats. Sound familiar? It's frustrating because we live in a world where time feels like a luxury we can't afford. But what if we could change that narrative? Here's the twist. Instead of fighting against the clock, you create artificial deadlines to force your hand. You turn the clock into a motivator rather than a passive observer. It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? Setting deadlines for yourself that are tighter than necessary feels like adding more stress. But here's the thing, our brains love urgency. When there's a sense of time pressure, your mind sharpens its focus and distractions fade into the background. Let me tell you a story. A while back I had a report due at work. Nothing crazy, just a typical deadline 3 weeks out. I thought, plenty of time. So I did what most of us do. I procrastinated. Week 1 passed and I told myself I'd start tomorrow. Week 2, same story. By the 3rd week, I was in full panic mode, cramming late into the night to finish on time. That's when it hit me. The only reason I got it done was because of the deadline. So I tried something new. For my next project, I gave myself an artificial deadline a week earlier. And guess what? I finished it without the last-minute frenzy and with time to spare for revisions. The psychology behind this is simple. When we see an open-ended stretch of time, we let our minds wander. But when there's a clear boundary, we prioritize. The clock becomes a tool, not a tyrant. This doesn't mean you should overpack your schedule or set impossible goals. It's about creating intentional urgency, using time limits to eliminate overthinking and fuel action. This isn't just about productivity, it's about regaining control. When you stop letting time slip through your fingers, you reclaim a sense of power and accomplishment. It feels incredible to cross that finish line early, to realize you're capable of more than you thought. This is about proving to yourself that you're not a victim of time, you're its master. So try it. Pick one task, set a timer, and race the clock. It might feel strange at first, but stick with it. Watch how your focus sharpens and your momentum builds. By turning the clock against you, you're actually putting it to work for you. And who knows, you might just find that you have more time than you ever imagined because you're finally using it wisely. Thank you so much for watching. I truly hope this video gave you something valuable, whether it was a new perspective, a spark of motivation, or just the reminder you needed to keep chasing your dreams. If you found it helpful, please take a moment to hit that like button. It really supports the channel and helps this message reach more people who might need it. And if you're not already part of this community, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. If you know someone who's struggling to hold on to their dreams, share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need to hear today. I'd also love to hear your thoughts and stories in the comments. What's one dream you've struggled with, and how are you planning to stick with it? Let's build each other up and keep this conversation going. Remember, the only way to truly fail is to give up. You have everything you need within you to keep going. It's just about taking the next step, no matter how small. Stay bold, stay resilient, and never stop dreaming. Until next time, keep reaching for what sets your soul on fire. You've got this.